Hi guys, CipSoft published a second content teaser for the monk today, outlining 6 abilities that the monk will have to give us a little bit of a feel of how the monk will function. Some of these are really awesome, sound really good. Some of them a little bit less so, but yeah, this video is going to be going into these 6 abilities one by one and analyzing how good or not good they are. First of all, we will look at this Mentor Other ability, and this is a buff spell that works kind of like Exura Sayo, heal friend from the druid. So basically you'll have a hotkey and you will have like the name of the character you want to cast this buff on, and the way it works is it provides a buff to the other vocation, to the other player, and it also provides a buff to yourself, which increases your the damage or the benefits of the harmony. So as you can see here, the bonuses are as following: night damage received reduced by 3%, which I think is very good. 3% damage reduction is actually surprisingly good. This is almost as good as just having like a dodge charm on all monsters. So yeah, pretty good. I think this is actually significant. We have Paladin damage caused by auto attacks increased by 5%. This is going to be great for winning bosses, for example. I'm sure all like high level paladins will now want monks to be buffing them for like Runebrass, etc. But also in team hunts, 5% extra damage from diamond arrows, definitely nothing to scoff at. Sorcerer, spells and runes increased by 5%, also good. Sorcerers do a little bit less damage than paladins, so probably not as worthwhile. Probably the paladin's gonna have priority over sorcerer in a team hunt, but still pretty good. And druid, healing caused increased by 5%. I don't really see under which scenario you would prioritize that one. I think all of the other ones are better, but you know, maybe in like a war scenario or something, I don't know. And the monk gets a harmony point bonus increased by 2%. So this means each charge of harmony that it has extra 2% effect. So for example, if you have an ability that has an extra 100% damage from harmony charges, and you have 5 harmony charges, that would go up to 110%, 5 times 2 extra 10%. That's how I understand it. Now, this buff lasts 60 seconds, and it was already confirmed by CipSoft that it will have 100% uptime. Now, they didn't mention what cooldown this will have, whether that's going to be a 60-second cooldown just to make sure that you're able to cast it consecutively with 100% uptime, or whether there's going to be a shorter cooldown. Now, personally, I can already tell that I'm not going to love this ability. I don't like stuff that you have to be casting on repeat like every 60 seconds, remembering about it. So if it's a 60-second effect, oh well, I think it's okay. You're going to be casting it on yourself when you're solo hunting, and you're going to be hunting it once on a team hunt, most likely on a paladin, every 60 seconds. I don't know. I like the buff. I like what it does. I can already feel like that's a bit of a chore. I'm not a fan of stuff like this. I would prefer it to be a passive effect of some sort, that you can maybe select who it's continuously applied for. But casting this every minute, you know, you're going to be forgetting, and it's going to be awkward. You're going to be thinking, do I cast it? Do I not cast it? And another consideration is, I hope the cooldown is 60 seconds, because if the cooldown is like 15 seconds, for example, you're going to be expected to be casting this every 15 seconds and rotating it for all the team hunt members, right? You cast on the knight, then you cast on the paladin, then on the sorcerer, then on the druid, and then you repeat every 15 seconds. Real pain in the ass if it's like 15 seconds. I hope it's not. I hope it is just a 60-second cooldown with a 60-second effect. And I don't like it. I don't like using it. I think the buffs are very strong, going to be very useful. I just don't like this kind of casting every 60 seconds, but it is what it is. It will be strong, and it will be, you will have to use it. Even when solo hunting, like I say, you'll just be using it on yourself, assuming you can use it on yourself. Hasn't been confirmed if you can or can't. The name kind of says other, so maybe you can't. I don't know. I would expect you should be able to use it on yourself, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, strong effect. I think it's going to be a pain in the ass to use, but other than that, pretty good. Let's move on. Now we have Focus Serenity, which, by the way, straight away, I think is one of the most powerful spells and abilities in the game. So let's read it. This character, the character is serene for 7 seconds, even if he does not meet the condition. So solo hunting, this part is irrelevant because you're always serene in solo hunting. However, what this means is you can cast this when you're like boxed in a party, and you continue to be serene and have all of your strength and all of your power. So this is very strong immediately for team hunting. it allows you to probably survive a bit better during boxes. Maybe this allows you to function like an EK a little bit. Going to be interesting to see the cooldown, but more about that in a moment. And yeah, it's basically just if you get trapped in a team hunt, you're definitely going to be using that to maintain serenity and get yourself out of the trap. So that effect in itself is very strong. However, we read the extra. Additionally, the character receives maximum harmony. That's 5 charges immediately. From what we can see, every other ability gives you 1 charge only, whereas this one gives you 5 straight away. So this will make your next spell very, very powerful, your spender spell, which is really good. I mean, that's like assuming every basic ability has like a 2-second cooldown like everything else. You would normally take 10 seconds to build up 5 charges of harmony. This one does it immediately, and by the sounds of it, this is probably a support spell, so it doesn't even interfere with your attack abilities. Very, very good. I mean, that's already very good. And just to finish it off, it also has an extra line that says the cooldown of all spender spells is reset. So what this means is what you're going to do is you're going to hunt. You're going to build up 5 charges using your regular rotation. You're going to do a big spender attack. Immediately after that, you do Focus Serenity, build up your 5 charges, reset the cooldown, and bam, you do another big spender just straight after it. Crazy. I mean, assuming that the numbers are okay, assuming the monk isn't super weird, this is going to be an insane combo. In PvP, this is probably going to be a real killer. Really, really strong, which brings me on to my next point. This will have to have some downsides, and the downsides are probably going to be high mana cost and high cooldown. I don't know what cooldown would be correct here. Now, I think it's going to be high. You don't want to give a monk 100% serene uptime, even when he's not meeting the conditions. Here we get 7 seconds. I would expect that the cooldown of this spell is at the very minimum about 30 seconds. And I would not be surprised to see it be like 1 or 2 minutes even. I think this is very powerful and it's going to be very fun to use. Like I mentioned, it's going to be very fun to use this double fully maxed out harmony spender spells back to back in 2 seconds. Very, very strong, very fun. This one I like. I really, really like this one. I hope this cooldown is not something insane. Right? I hope it's not like 10 minutes because then it's kind of going to be irrelevant. I hope the cooldown is low enough for this to be, usable often. But obviously, I understand why this cooldown cannot be very short because it would be just absolutely broken. Really, really cool spell. Moving on, we have a greater flurry of blows, which, if you read the description, is an even more destructive variant of the flurry of blows, which means that there's going to be 2 abilities. There's going to be a flurry of blows, and there's going to be a greater flurry of blows. I'm assuming this is like Exori Gran kind of setup in the EK, so you've basically got like a similar weaker spell, less damage, less mana, shorter cooldown, and then you've got the greater one, more mana cost, more damage, longer cooldown, right? So you can kind of combine 2 of them in a rotation. It's hard to say. This could also be like part of the wheel, right? This could be an ability unlocked via the Wheel of Destiny. If you have like 250 points in a quadrant, it unlocks tier 1 Greater Flurry of Blows. Maybe. They haven't confirmed, so we don't know yet. We're going to have to see. Anyway, this is a builder spell, worth mentioning. So this is one that generates charges rather than spending them. So probably not going to be like insane amounts of damage, right? I expect that the builders have like a relatively low amount of damage, and the spenders is where you're going to be dealing your damage. So probably nothing like crazy. But if you look at the area of it, they've included a little screenshot. They haven't answered if it's going to be like forward facing or at your target. So I don't know if it's always going to be firing it in front of you, or if you're going to have a targeted enemy, if it's going to target in that direction. Anyway, it definitely does it mostly in front of you and kind of to the side. Looks pretty strong. I think the area is pretty large, so you've got a lot of charm procs there potentially as well. Yeah, we're going to have to see. I'm assuming that the regular Flurry of Blows, which hasn't been released yet, is probably going to have a slightly lower area of effect. Maybe it's not going to have those things to the side as much or not as far out. But yeah, looks okay. really kind of difficult to really analyze outside of if you don't get the numbers, right? If I don't have the cooldown, if I don't have the mana cost, if I don't have the damage, I can't really say how good it's going to be. Looks okay. I hope it's not too awkward to target it. Obviously, hunting with waves with mages is kind of awkward. No one really likes it too much, so I hope it's not like another wave situation where you have to be really positioning yourself. Hopefully you can cast it in like a relatively static way when you're standing in a box and it's still pretty effective. It will definitely attack 5 monsters in a box, as you can see. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you don't even need to move. We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see some other abilities from the monk as well. This one, so far, looks okay to me. Moving on, we have Chained Penance, which is basically a chain attack, right? This is going to be very similar to Executioner's Throw if you play EK. The Amp Core, Amp Core, basically deals damage to a unit within 2 units, so it has to be pretty close to you. Can have one sort of gap or 1 square gap between, and it chains up to 3 additional targets, so it can hit up to 4 enemies, but it only jumps 1 distance, right? So it does jump to a nearby enemy. It doesn't like chain, far out, which is okay. But it does mean that you're probably going to want to cast this in boxes, right? You're probably not going to be casting this while you kite in a bunch of monsters, because you might just not be able to chain it effectively if there is nothing immediately next to the monster that you cast it on. So instead of hitting 4 targets, you might hit like 1 or 2. So probably you want to be using it more in like a stationary box rather than running. The jump bonus is 15%, so increases damage as it jumps, and it prioritizes the highest percentage monster when it does multiple jumps. This means it's going to be going from highest to lowest, which is kind of counterintuitive with the fact that the damage increases with each jump. But it is what it is. That's okay. You probably want to be using this like sort of in the middle of the box once you've dealt half the damage to your box, and the highest monsters are still like high health. Maybe something like that. I'm not sure. We're going to have to see. Again, don't have the numbers. Need to see it in practice, but looks okay. I like chain attacks. It means you don't have to aim them, which is great. You can just use that in the box, and it's going to hit 4 enemies. Pretty good overall. Next up, we have Sweeping Takedown, which is the first spend ability we can see, and this deals damage in 2 boxes. It does a 3x2, so it's like a double Exori Min, and then an additional 75% damage to another double Exori Min. So it does less damage to nearby enemies and more damage to sort of further out enemies. I'm not entirely sure how this will effectively work. This is going to be very hard to aim in solo, and probably reasonably easy to aim in a proper team hunt situation when the EK's got a full box. You just kind of stand a few tiles away, 4 tiles away, and then you do 75% extra damage to that connected box. And as it's a spend ability, it scales with the harmony charges. So you can get up to 240% while in Virtue of Sustain or Justice. Just as a reminder, those are the Virtue stances which do not increase your bonuses with harmony. So these are the ones which increase your fist fighting and the ones which increase your healing. So that's basically the basic spend is 240%. This works out if you have up to 5 charges, that each charge will give up to 48% extra damage. Which is high, by the way. And then you can have even 400% while using Virtue of Harmony, which means that when you're using this stance, there's a Virtue stance, which gives you extra scaling with the Harmony charges. You get 80% per charge of extra damage to the ability, which again is loads, which makes me think, already looking at multipliers like this, that the base value of these abilities is going to be very, very low. And if you don't have any charges, it's going to be basically trash. So you definitely don't want to be using it if without any charges. Now, I don't even know if you can use it without any charges. Maybe you have to have a minimum of 1 charge, and then maybe those numbers 240 and 400 work out a little bit differently. Maybe if you have to have 1 minimum charge just to use the base amount, then the 4 extra charges give 240%, so 60% per charge. And the extra 400% is 100% per charge for every extra 4 charges. I don't know. This maybe makes more sense because the 48% that I worked out originally is kind of a weird number. So yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe you can only use these once you have 1 charge minimum, and then each charge on top of that adds extra extra damage. Now, I do think, looking at this one immediately, I don't think it's going to be that great in solo. I do think this is a team hunting ability, because you probably will rely on doing this extra 75% of the damage to the following connected 3x2 box, which is going to be very, very difficult to effectively apply solo. So yeah, I think this is mostly a team hunt ability. And yeah, like I was just saying, I think the base values, because of the scaling, the base values of these abilities will be low, and you will really want to be using, 4 or 5 charged spenders. Anyway, moving on, we get access to the final ability, which is the Mass Spirit Mend, which is the AoE heal that the monk will have. It's again a spender ability, so which can be healed like the previous ability up to 240% when in the non-harmony based stances, and up to 400% when in the harmony virtue stance. And honestly, they don't tell you much more here. They don't tell you how much it's going to heal. It's not going to tell you the area. However, it does have the word mass in the ability, which means it's not going to be just a singular heal. I expect this to be like an alternative to mass healing on the druid, like the Exura Grandmass Res, probably with a slightly different area of effect. Maybe it's going to be like a forward healing wave, right, where it's going to be healing in front of you, maybe to the sides. Hard to say, probably something like that. And again, this scales with your charges, so you can probably do like an insane heal here, that I hope it heals you as well. It's not super clear to me from this, but I expect this heals you as well, which, by the way, combined with with this Focus Serenity, can be a really, really powerful heal, right? You build up your charges, you do a Mass Spirit Mend, you do Focus Serenity, you do another Mass Spirit Mend, like a double enforced 400% heal, for example, once in the harmony stance. Probably going to be like an intense burst of healing. Couple this with a few monks and like a PvP server in a war situation. Crazy. Could be some crazy stuff in here, but really hard to say without actually properly getting to see the numbers and testing it in the test server, which I'm very, very excited about, obviously. Anyway, that sums up the 6 abilities. I tried to talk about as much as possible. Obviously, we don't have that much information yet, so I have just a couple of other remarks that that are basically clear to me from looking at these 6 abilities at least. First of all, by looking at the images and the descriptions of these damaging abilities, they seem physical to me. What this means or implies to me is that the default damage type of the abilities of the monk is probably physical, in the same way that the EK's base damage type is physical. However, being a physical only class is not going to be any good in 2025 in Tibia, so I think this likely means that monk will have access to elemental weapons. So I think the monk will be quite similar to the EK, that is going to have like a physical spells abilities by default that will be changed into elemental abilities via elemental weapons. Now, how exactly this will work with monk will have access to all elemental weapons remains to be seen. Maybe they'll just have like 2 or 3 elements. Maybe they'll get some holy elements. That kind of works with the theme of monk. We're going to have to see, but I'm very doubtful that it's all going to be physical. I think monk definitely needs to have access to element. And my second point that I wanted to mention is that so far it does not seem like there's going to be like some super straightforward area of effect ability for solo hunting and boxing. I'm a little bit concerned that monk is looking to be designed around team hunting so far. A lot of this stuff that we've seen is like team hunting, right? We've got this Mend for Other, which is for parties. We have this Mass Spirit Mend, which again is for parties. Then we have this Sweeping Takedown, which I already mentioned is going to come. It was going to be really powerful when you've got an EK boxing, but it's not going to be as powerful when you're doing solo. Then you've got this Greater Flurry of Blows, which again, kind of a funky area of effect, right? It's not super easy for solo hunting. It's kind of like for kiting style. And the Chain Penance, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Like I mentioned, this is actually for a boxing style. So if there is like a solo boxing style hunt for monk, this is pretty good for it. This is less so. But again, we've only got six abilities so far. I think CipSoft said there's about 20 unique abilities that the monk will have. So we're gonna have to see. I hope monk can hunt effectively solo. I'm personally not a fan of the waving or unlike the mages when you hunt solo. It's a pain in the ass. I would prefer a more, a hunting style where you don't have to be facing in a particular way to fire off your spells, right? Otherwise, it's going to be a bit awkward. So that's my concern looking at those 6 abilities. I hope that's not going to be the case. Anyway, that's pretty much everything so far. I would have liked a little bit more content from CipSoft. I think releasing just 6 abilities with basically just the descriptions without any values and stuff is a little bit less than I was hoping for today, but still very interesting, still very exciting to get a glimpse into what the monk will look like. I just really hope that the solo hunting style will be viable and not a pain when the monk releases. Anyway, that's what I have for you today, guys. Let me know what you guys think, if you like this teaser, if you're looking forward to the next one, which by the way is this Thursday, and that's going to be the items. So we're going to find out on Thursday what elemental types the monk will have. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.